And if you think about what we're seeing in the market right now, it's such an interesting time to think about all of these new products that are coming to the surface around the crypto community because of the weakness you're seeing in Bitcoin. Katherine, how do you think about this as an issuer? You're on one hand seeing a lot of interest in the cryptocurrency really waning, but new products coming to launch. What's the dynamic?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And we've actually dialogued with the SEC about the possibility of what's coming down the pike with new products. And it is interesting, as Eric pointed out, some of those new products may have to wait on a new SEC chair if that comes to turn in January, because otherwise I think it's going to be a really long haul to get some of these products out in the market, given the history we've had with getting these products to market and the fact of not having futures trading in some of these potential products. But it's an active dialogue, and I think our communication with the SEC about the prospects for these products has actually been quite welcoming.
That's fascinating. And if you think about the other thing Eric was pointing out was there's the SEC as one part of things, but then there's the retail investor interest or even institutional investor interest. How do you see investors really rallying around the idea of Ethereum? Do you find it a harder sell than Bitcoin?
It's definitely a more nuanced sell, but I don't think it's a harder sell. I think it's got its own market structure that is explainable, not as easily explainable as the digital gold qualities of Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin is the big leader, right? But we're 6 months behind here, and we're close to a launch of the spot ETH ETFs. Chair Gensler said it's going to be sometime over the summer. You know, everyone has a different definition of summer. It's been a little bit of a long, hot summer for the issuers waiting for that. But we're seeing in the S1 amendments that are filed that there are fewer and fewer issues that are being vetted back and forth between issuers and the SEC. So that points all signs in the direction that we are close to the finish line on the launch.
And let's talk about the marketing of Ether, right? So let's say you're talking to a cousin or your uncle or aunt, and you're trying to explain Ether ETF. You just told them Bitcoin is digital gold. What's the buzzword or the sort of four-word marketing sort of slogan that you can give Ether where someone will be interested in it?
We try to explain Ether, and we have at heart Bitwise is a research institution. And what our research team does day in and day out is they create kind of easy to digest explanations of Ether, of these products, and what impact they're having on the technological furtherance of moving money over the internet. And I think once you break it down and explain that, it's not just a currency. It's not, you're not issuing another currency so that you can just go buy coffee at Starbucks. These are technological innovations, and these are businesses that are being run on the blockchain. So once you get into the explanation of that these are businesses and liken them to the evolution of the internet, I think it's more easily explainable and something that folks can grasp that maybe have no background, or even folks that do have background or have been investors in Bitcoin and are looking to see, okay, what's the next diversification move we can make? So those are conversations that you can step function and explain. And we have a lot of research and kind of easily digestible items on our website that I think help investors every day.
And we're going to have a race, right? We had the Bitcoin ETF was, I think, 11 or 10 ETFs launching the same day. That's rare. We're going to have it a part two. You're going to be up against Fidelity and BlackRock. What is your plan to stand apart and get out early with assets and flows in really one of the most competitive matchups that we've seen in a while?
Well, first, it's great for investors that there are a number of us coming out at once, if that's how it plays out. And it's looking that that's the way it's going to be directed. And second, from our perspective, Bitwise, we set ourselves apart as the crypto asset specialist. We've been doing this for years. Yes, some of the other names you've definitely heard of, but we have been trading and we have been working just within crypto as specialists for many years now. And a lot of the behind the scenes operational mechanisms are really important to the trading of these products. So it's important to kind of look behind the names and see experience and who's been out there and who's been working with some of these traders in that operational mechanics behind the scenes mechanisms. Those are very important. And ultimately, the investor will win when you keep the trading spreads tight, and you can do that through that specialty behind the scenes.
Katherine, another thing I'm curious about is something that you put in your notes. This is the idea that someone needs to launch a new ETF that's 10% Ether and 90% tech stocks. Will you be the person to do it? And how soon could you get it done?
I can't speak to our future products, unfortunately, but we are definitely looking at what's going to be good for the investors. And we, every day, Bitwise folks are talking to institutional investors about what their clients are asking them for, what they're looking for, and it's it's an ongoing conversation. And we always look to be ahead of the curve and figuring out what's next and what's important for the investors for their diversification needs.